Hey, we're back with a horror. Well, this is kind of a horror movie, too. That we're watching for the holiday season. It is Halloween, of course. And I watched It and the It remake very recently, which I loved. And again, I have no idea why the comments are turned off on that. If anybody knows how to fix that, let me know. Because I went and checked. I've never tried to turn off comments on any video, but I did make some spicy jokes in that one, so it could have had something to do with that. But I figured I might as well watch the sequel, It Chapter 2, which actually did a very good job in the box office. There aren't current explicit plans to make another one of these things, but it actually did. Based on the budget and the box office intake, it did exceptionally well. $79 million budget, and they generally spend about that much on marketing, and it made $473 million. So yeah, they definitely made money on that movie. But it was a 2019 movie. Stephen King himself gets a writer credit along with Gary Dauberman. And the director is Andy Muschietti, who directed the first one. And yes, It Chapter 2 is the sequel to, you guessed it, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. And this one starts following the children as adults 27 years later. Recall that they all promised to come back to Derry if it turned out they didn't actually murder the evil supernatural alien clown. So this movie's 3 hours long. I'm serious, it's 3 hours long. It's a horror movie about an evil clown that lasts 3 hours. I was so annoyed by that fact that I watched another movie while I was watching this movie. So it started out, there were these gay guys blowing each other in a county fair. They were like a scourge running around and sword fighting in front of innocent families. So some perfectly stable good Samaritans attempted to intervene by beating one up and throwing him in the river. Yes, all of this scene is hilariously over the top. Then the one gay guy sees Pennywise eating his boyfriend across the river, and he gets totally jealous because he has a cannibalism fetish. But I can't remember. I don't even think the bullies in this first scene, I don't think they get... Did they have a comeuppance? Did they get punished or anything? I can't remember. Anyway, then one of the children people, who are now grown up, of course, stayed in Derry this entire time, and he contacts all of the remaining children people to let them know that it's not actually dead, it's come back after the 27 years, you know, like it's like cicadas, like they said, which are actually worse than evil supernatural alien clowns. But he calls them to let them know. And when he was doing this, I could not... But there are actually legitimate actors in this. When James McAvoy popped up, I was like, what the hell? Seriously? And then Jessica Chastain, too. I was like, are you kidding me? But yes, they play a couple of the kids. One of them, the former, plays the stuttering kid. And the latter, of course, as you might expect, plays the chick. Who, by the way, had a very hilarious introduction in the original movie, and it has a similar setup in this one. So in the original movie, like we talked about in the episode, she has a super abusive husband that she has built some kind of an empire with, but he's super abusive and gets ridiculous and like pulls the belt out when she wants to leave and is like, I'm gonna put you back in your place, woman. So, when this scene came about with Jessica Chastain, I'm wondering how it might be altered. And she initially tells her husband, and they sit down on the bed, and he says, it's okay, I trust you. And so I thought it was going to be this, like, effeminate update of the husband character. Like, they didn't want to go back down that road. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, it's, you know, modern times... regressing storytelling because it doesn't want to be offensive, and then he grabs her wrist and just goes right to being super incredibly abusive again, like hitting her, throwing her on the bed, and taking the belt out again. Yeah, it was pretty horrible. But this always, like, it always bothered me because she married him, you know? I don't know if it says how long they've been together, but that must have been for a while if they built a whole company together. And they got married. She said yes. There was no indication that it was under duress that she agreed to the marriage. So they got married, and she sleeps next to him for years, and they've been together for years. There's even like a giant portrait of them in the front area of the house that looks like it belongs in a medieval castle. So it's, I mean, at what point do you question her choices in men? I mean, obviously, it's supposed to be a reference to the fact that she has a super abusive father, and so generally they'll look for that kind of a person in their mates going forward. But still, like, it's so extreme that the guy goes that abusive, when she's like, oh, I have to go somewhere, that it's just ridiculous. And she leaves the ring, and so it's, immediate divorce. I've been with you for 10 years, immediate divorce based on this one situation, and that will be that. Anyway, you also got the bully who wakes up in the river as the kid. He wakes up in the river and goes back to the house. He's arrested and thrown in an insane asylum because he's saying all sorts of crazy stuff. And then as an adult, he is given a knife by somebody who died and then goes around stabbing people, which is a little goofy because guys with mullets are scary in general, but not generally as scary as evil clown supernatural alien monsters. So it was a bit redundant. It was kind of dumb to have him wandering around too, doing a whole bunch of nothing. But finally, you got the whole crew. They meet at a Chinese restaurant, and they're all talking and having a good time, catching up, and it worked reasonably well as a scene, I thought. It was overwritten, and a lot of the jokes were pretty stupid, but some of them worked, and some of them were endearing in the way that they were interacting with each other, and the actors did what they could with what they had. It's like they were really trying to convey and were successful in a lot of ways, conveying that they were old friends and they were just happy to be around each other again. And then they start opening, after the meal, they start opening the fortune cookies, and each fortune cookie has one word on it. And they're trying to put it together and figure out what the message is. And I thought this was it was a calmer, more creepy situation, and I appreciated it. I thought it was a pretty decent way to ease back into the horror aspect of it because they were just having a nice conversation, and there was a lot of subtlety that could be had in this situation because they're missing one of the words, and then Bev shows it, and it has a relatively creepy message that makes sense in context and makes sense for the characters and is still off-putting. And I was just like, okay, maybe they're going to be able to do something here. Maybe they will subtly take us back into this genre, and then over time, because they have so much time to work with here, they're going to ratchet up the creepiness and the explicitness of the things that are happening and the scary things that pop out and all that kind of thing. So I was kind of looking forward to it at that point. And then a little spider monster with a baby face jumps out of one of the fortune cookies. And that was, pretty much it from there on. So they're fighting a bunch of fortune cookie little monsters. One of them's just an eye with legs or something, and they're all CG, and it's all pointless. And then the rest of the movie is pretty much a blur. It was a bunch of random CG zombie monsters that were chasing characters randomly. I don't know that I've cared less about the outcome for characters in a movie. I mean, I was more invested in Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber getting his shot with the briefcase chick. And also, side note, you had Bev, the character played by Jessica Chastain. She kisses both James McAvoy and the guy who was fat when he was a kid, but's not fat now. And it has a bit of an odd message. It's like, because James McAvoy's character had the stutter when he was a kid, and he still has the stutter as an adult. But the fat guy lost the weight. So it seems to be saying if you fix your messed up child things, then you can get a girl too with red hair and a face that looks like a brick building. So I didn't have fun. It was way too long. It was meandering. There didn't seem to be any real ideas or cleverness behind any of it. I hated the CG. Every time there was CG, there was just like zero investment or tension or fear. So when I wasn't bored, I was annoyed, and then at the end, they tell Tinkerbell they really believe and have an orgy or something, and I will never watch that again. Okay, that was it. Chapter 2. It still pretty much looked nice. I mean, like I said, the CG was worthless, but a lot of the cinematography, the colors looked good, and the actors did everything they could to try to save it, but it just didn't turn out all that great. I think it was mostly due to the writing. Anyway, that's it, Chapter 2. If you've seen it, what did you think about the movie? And I think I've just been spoiled now because there were actually excellent comments that were left. I mean, I appreciate any engagement whatsoever because I'm pretty sure it helps with the algorithm, but There were some excellent comments left on the Shining video, so you can still leave your dumb comments, but there's a much higher bar for discussion when it comes to these movies. Although this one, there's not much to say about the dumb thing. So anyway, Halloween, which movies are you guys watching? I know I am definitely going to watch The Babadook at some point. And there was also this one creepy one that I can't remember what it was called, but it was like they went out into the forest and there was this really awesome looking monster that showed up, and I can't remember where I saw it, what it's from, or anything. I don't even know how to find it. So, yeah, I'll try to find that one. But also Poltergeist. I've never seen that, so I think I'm going to try to watch that one too. Anyway, yeah, that is it, Chapter 2. If you haven't seen the original, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, then, give that one a look for Halloween. Otherwise, hope all is well, and I'll see you later. I think that's it. All right, bye.